They continued on to the airship with little conversation. Emeric asked again if she were all right, apparently worried that she had somehow been injured and was keeping it to herself. Perhaps, she thought, because that is what he would do. His life of secrecy had pretty well shaped his character, and what he knew to be true about himself he probably saw frequently in others, whether it was there or not. He stumbled a bit as they went, and she could tell he was not completely back to himself, but he seemed to get stronger as they went, and by the time they had reached the two-man, he was fully recovered. "All right then," he said, turning to face her. "Another changing is needed. This means we have to tether again. I'm not sure exactly what's happened, and I won't know until we catch up with whoever made those 2 sets of footprints. I have to track them on the ground. You have to follow me in the airship. We can't afford to leave the airship behind. We will almost certainly have need of it again before this is over." "Do you think we can catch up to them today? How far ahead are they?" He shook his head. Can't be sure. Although," he added hastily, "I can't imagine we won't catch up. More to the point, I don't know the nature or identity of the quarry we're chasing. At least one of them is pretty clever with explosives and traps. So I have to be prepared for the worst. I'm choosing a form that allows for that." "Quarry," she thought. "What form will you take?" "That's what I want to talk to you about. I need something that possesses both tracking and defensive skills. A big, strong creature that can run and evade. One with stamina and heart. A predator." "I will change you to a parse wolf." She recognized the name. These were big, powerful animals from the deep Eastland, fierce enough to stand against a Coden. They were named for the region that had birthed them, the Parsk Valley, deep inside the rock spur north of the high bends. She had never seen one, but she had heard stories about how dangerous they were. "You know of them?" he asked, seeing the look on her face. "Well, then you understand how I see the situation. There is no better combination of tracker and fighter, no creature more suited to what we require than a Parsk wolf. But it's not a perfect choice. Parsk wolves are unpredictable creatures. I have to be wary about losing control once I change. Its temperament and emotional instability may be too much for me. So you will need to keep close watch and bring me back at once if you sense anything is at all going wrong." "Not to question your judgment," she said. "But what if you're wrong about this? What if it turns out you can't control yourself once you change? What if I'm not strong enough to save you?" He cocked an eyebrow. "But you are. I wouldn't be doing this otherwise. So now that you know what's going to happen, let's get on with it. We have to cover as much ground as possible before it gets dark." Without waiting for her response, he stripped off his clothes once more and stowed them in the pilot box. Then he stepped away, climbed back into the two-man and lift off. "Once you're away, I'll make the change. No sense in taking chances." "Emeric, no, don't." But he waved her off, his features stiff and forbidding, his posture a clear indication that he was not interested in hearing further objections. She retreated to the airship, climbed into the pilot box, engaged the controls, and powered up the parse tubes. Seconds later, she was airborne, hovering 30 feet above him, watching warily as he prepared himself. He was standing there in the sunlight, scratched and bruised, but somehow looking heroic, his willingness to put himself in peril, admirable if not necessarily wise. He clearly understood that this change carried special risk. To achieve what was needed to find... Never mind, I can't tell you that. To achieve what was needed, he was willing to gamble. Or perhaps, she thought suddenly, he was actually eager for it. Without understanding why, she knew even as she completed the thought that she was right. This shape-shifting experience was entirely different than the last. Before, it had been a gradual, unhurried evolution as he changed from human to animal. Now it was more like an explosive reimagining. The muscles of his body rippled with an explosion of raw power, extrusions and disconnections ripping at him, bones and flesh and blood all reforming in a whirlwind of pulsing fury. The Parsk wolf came alive in mere seconds. It surfaced with a vengeance, came into being as if desperate for life, as if escaping a cage. Leofur, linked by the tethering, was at the center of the changing. She was infused with a strong sense of the Parsk wolf's predatory nature and savage instincts. She could feel its hunger, its urge to hunt, its willingness to kill. Its lean, muscular shape was a more proper fit for Emeric's human form than the ferret's had been. Its formidable nature made it a suitable match for Emeric's own. She sensed the comfort he experienced in this body, She sensed that this was a creature he knew intimately, one with which he instinctively bonded. In every way that mattered, he was the Parsk wolf. He was down on all fours now, the wolf form complete, his broad, shaggy head swung from side to side, gimlet eyes searching. He circled in a crouch, sniffed the ground, and began loping back along the path Emeric had taken earlier to where the tracks of the crashed airship's occupants began. Watching him with a mix of excitement and horror, disturbed by his size and look and clear desire to hunt, Leofur followed. Engaging the airship thruster, she cruised along behind him, staying safely overhead. When they reached the tracks, the Parsk wolf began sniffing around, moving from place to place, its huge, grizzled head lowered so close to the ground that at times its nose was pressed right up against it. Leofur's own senses were filled with what the wolf was finding, smells that were raw and dark. Its eager response felt threatening, exuding menace and a potential for explosiveness, the promise of unleashing its raw, destructive power only a heartbeat away. Leofur was already sorry she had agreed to this. She understood the danger Emeric was facing, but she was convinced he should have chosen the less lethal form. Still, it was too late for second guessing. The wolf had picked up the trail and was trotting ahead through the brush and trees at a steady pace, all grace and power and intent. "Stay with me," he said. "Keep me in sight. The lure of this form is very strong. I am hungry for the feel of it. It infuses me with such pleasure." Shades, he was already succumbing. "Emeric, stop there. This is too much for you. Change back. Find another form." Her plea went unanswered. She tried again, and his vision cut away from her, the link broken. She tracked him as best she could, all the while trying to reestablish visual contact and never finding him ready to allow for it. She lost him eventually, found him again in a flash of black and gray fur for only a matter of seconds before he disappeared for good. She flew on, doing her best to hold her course, to keep to where she thought he had gone, but blind for all intents and purposes to his progress. She could not shed the sinking feeling in her stomach. She could not help but believe she had seen the last of him. This whole plan had been flawed from the start, weighted too much in his favor and too little in hers. He had used her. How, she was uncertain, but the feeling was there. The afternoon slipped into evening. Twilight, a deep, rich purple as the sun slid below the horizon and darkness settled in. By midnight, the sky was filled with stars, and the forest below and the mountains to her left made bright with their silvery light. She had just arrived at the deep, broad cut of the Cannon Pass, when from out of its dark reaches, disembodied and terrible, she heard his voice once more. "I have them."